And we are live.
Right. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of Steel Replay.
Well, we'll give him a moment to see if anyone pops in. But, you know, don't expect many people are gonna show up for the first one here.
Oh, you never know. You never know.
So what do we got coming up in the near future for Ethelmark? War practice on the horizon, yeah.
Yeah, we got war practice on the horizon. There's Melee Madness is going on theoretically right now.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
pretty awesome. I mean, that's gonna be great for them. Um,
Yeah, excited for Colfina's investiture.
yes, one of our own White Scarps. That's awesome. Knights and Round Tables is going on tomorrow. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah, Roan said that they were going to that. Are you planning on popping to that?
No, no. Roan has also, I believe, changed their mind because of some plans with their mother for Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah, that happens.
Mother's Day weekend is typically, frequently a no-go for me because it's so close to my mother's birthday as well. Um, let's see what else is close. Um, I mean, really, the big one's war practice, right? Who isn't excited for that?
Yeah, have you seen a schedule for that at all? I haven't heard anything in particular going on there, other than obviously Jahan talking about melee plans.
Well, there's supposed to be the Gavin stab. They're doing that again, so that's going to be pretty cool. Pretty cool. Um, uh, I am unsure. Aside from that,
All right, I think we've given it enough time.
okay,
So let's get this episode started. Welcome everyone to the
absolutely,
first episode of Steel Replay with your hosts Cyrus and Julius.
Julie.
Yes, that's Julius right over there.
It's me.
And as we announced before, we figured we'd make our first episode completely and totally untoppable by covering a once in a lifetime event.
Yeah. Hopefully it won't be too once in a lifetime. Hopefully we'll get some follow ups, but nothing will ever beat the first, right?
Yep, yep, yep. Well, you know, what it might beat it if we had it here in Ethelmark.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. I think I would beat it for us at least. Maybe not for everybody.
Yeah, so what was your experience with East Kingdom Crown under Rapier conventions?
Well, I gotta say, in terms of honor, I don't think I've seen too many tournaments that I would say are more honorable than that. Um, I mean, you know how it is, right? Every tournament's gonna have, just by volume, some stuff that's unfortunate you'd expect, right? But I did not see really almost any of it at East Kingdom Crown. I mean, it was really fantastic.
Oh yeah, it was
Everybody was performing.
incredibly clean from beginning to finish, from what I saw. And I have access to three different camera people's footage, so we covered more than half the tournament.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's you can't. I don't think we could have expected anything more, right?
Well, we could have expected sunshine.
Oh, that's true. That's true. The weather was unfortunate. I'm glad that they made the call when they did to switch inside. Perhaps my only big complaint is I think could have made that call earlier. Because I mean, I saw some nasty slip and falls, but nobody got hurt that I know of. Nobody that I saw anyway. So that's good. That's very very fortunate.
No, I don't know of anyone getting hurt. Um, I mean, the inside was just as slippery as outside was, which is rough, and we're going to see that in one of the clips we're going to look at today.
Oh boy.
But
Yeah,
it,
there's.
it didn't help that yeah, they had a system in place, which is fine. A lot of people coming in and out though kept making the floor wetter, which seemed to make the list slippier as uh as the day went on.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, on some level, it's kind of to be expected, right? I mean, it was an indoor site with the indoor portion rather was just slick concrete floors. There was no grip at all. Um, so really, I'm glad that nobody seemed to get seriously injured. Because that's, I mean, in any tournament, there's always the risk, right? I mean, anytime you do anything physical, there's always the
Yeah, of
risk, and
course,
so
of course.
I'm glad that it. I think that they tried to mitigate it as best they could, and I think that they, by and large, succeeded.
Yeah, yeah. It was a good backup plan. Uh, for how they set up the lists and splitting it between the two buildings. What they could not have accounted for or even fixed was just how many people were there.
Oh, I know. It was pretty packed. Not gonna lie, I didn't get as much recording done as I wanted to because of just it was hard to make way in.
Oh yeah, it was a very fortunate thing for us that they did go inside because the moment I heard the call, I happened to be watching the list that I think the marshal that was running that list made the final call to move it inside. So as soon as that happened, I followed someone in, so I ended up right up on the edge of a list for the entire time.
Yeah, for most of round one, I ended up on the edge of Queen's List one, which was fortunate. But it it people, I mean, consorts want to watch their fighter, and you got to respect that. Fighters need to get into the lists, and you got to respect that.
Oh, of course,
Um,
and it's just so many people there that like it was standing room only for a lot of it.
oh yeah.
Even getting around to look at different pits was near impossible. I think the final total for the event on attendance was almost it was pushing 800 people on site.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That is way more than I would have guessed.
Yeah, I want to say it was over 750 but not quite 800, somewhere in that
Wow.
range.
I mean, that's more than you guessed day of. I think you said something like three or four.
Yeah, and that was just mental math on, you know, 88 combatants times 2 plus an equal sized crowd or so ish.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a lot of people. I mean, that might. I think that that is almost certainly the biggest event that isn't a war that I have been to.
Oh yeah, I mean that's probably the most populous event we'll ever see that isn't a multi-day camping event that's multi-kingdom or a full war. And I bet that was even bigger than a lot of wars.
Oh, I mean, it was certainly bigger than any multi-day camping event I've been to that wasn't a war. I guess maybe not war practice. I don't know the numbers for that, but
That would be
it could be
interesting
pretty
to
big, I
find out.
bet.
I have no idea. So would you say overall it was a positive experience?
Yes, definitely. Even beyond my own personal enjoyment in the spectacle, I think the fact that it went so clean and went so well, I mean, it's just a really good sign for the idea of it happening more in the future, right? And isn't that what fundamentally both of us want? And hopefully the fencing community as a whole wants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I mean, the
we
sheer
kind of we
level of
voted and we
support,
voted with our feet, so
absolutely. The sheer level of support across the entire SCA and every bit of it was very evident with the people there and the cheers and the just the level of noise for it. Everyone wanted to see this happen and be an absolute success.
You know, that actually reminds me, there was something that there's something very specific I wanted to call out. I wanted to say, I think that there were, what is it, 5 or 6 knights participating in this tournament, and from what I heard from the ones that I didn't see, and from what I saw of the ones I did see, they all fought with extreme honor, extreme grace. Like, they all took it to the highest degree, and I know a lot of people were very worried about that not being the case, but no,
No, it was
our
excellent all around.
our allies over on the heavy field absolutely supported this venture, and I don't think we could have asked for anything more. It was just absolutely amazing.
So sounds like it went well from our perspective. Um, Could start looking at some fights now.
Yeah, I think we probably should. That's kind of the point, right?
No, I mean, we could just sit here and gab the whole time.
Yeah, but does the world really need another talking podcast?
So, across all the footage we got, which I have to especially thank uh, Colfina for grabbing footage for us as well and sending that my way. We have on the docket for today uh, 11 pairings to look at. Uh, Obviously, we'll be looking at the finals, um, most of both the semifinal fights, and a lot of the advancements to round two. But there are some interesting ones in the round robin pools that, between the three of us that we caught, that I figured were worth looking at. So the first one we're going to look at is Magnus versus Vittorio, which, from
And so,
my understanding, Magnus is a golden rapier.
uh, yes, that is my understanding. Vittorio, to all I have been able to find, is unawarded on the rapier field, but is a master of the laurel.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, as far as I can find, according to East Kingdom Order of Precedence, there is just a silver rapier, so silver rapier level, and a very recently made one too. Only about 5-ish months.
Oh, that's a very interesting.
So
And this is a bout of case versus case. So let's see what we have here. So it's interesting. A lot of aggression at the start.
it's true, and it's coming primarily down the center line. Both of them are keeping their swords primarily off the same plane, and
This is we have a couple of Magnus's fights here, and this is pretty common across what I saw from him. Of lots of pressure right from the get go, throwing those attacks in, and trying to put his opponent on the back foot.
so let's go back a little bit
Yep.
to where he was just about to leg his opponent.
Right.
Um,
We'll let it play from here, I suppose.
okay. So I
And
think it's probably around now. Let's set it to half speed. Yep. Okay. So we see an attempt on the arm. We see an attempt on the body. Again, just staying just out of measure.
these shots are just, I mean, they're just missing.
It's very careful, and the fact that Vittorio is showing not really any concern about them shows, I mean, to me, either a very very good understanding of both his and his opponent's measure, or a little bit of just too deep of hesitation that comes from being new or newer in the scheme of fencing.
Well, did you catch that Magnus is left-handed, or at least is focused, uh, working from a left-handed primary position?
Yeah, which is interesting. I actually don't know of any people who are really, really big on Case and Ethelmark and who are left-handed dominant in their fight. Um, Granted, I don't know a lot of people who are big, big Case fighters.
Yeah, but yeah. So classic lefty tactics. Lots of
Mhm,
attacks for uh, the presented arm, the right hand arm, and that
mhm.
nice, lovely area of the collarbone, right on their right side, from the shoulder all the way over to the neck. And that's where a lot of those were just missing. But he gets the
I
leg.
mean, that one, yeah, so what I really wanted to point out was that shot on the leg, because if you look at it really closely, you can see he's continues throwing that for that arm, he continues throwing for that arm, and then he throws high with one sword, so that way he can't bring his closer sword down to guard the leg, and then goes for the leg with the other one. He's attacking at the same time with both swords in two totally different locations to prompt somebody to be unable to effectively defend both at once, and that's challenging, right? I mean, it's challenging to keep two different targets in mind and present two credible threats. Because if that attack to the head wasn't blocked, it was going to come in, and it was going to kill him. So
Yeah, it's
that's great work on
interesting.
Mac.
I wonder if it was an intentional choice on his part that if I back it up that couple of seconds again, that
Mm-hmm.
these upper chest shots are coming in fast and aggressive, right? They're almost getting there. They're fast, they're aggressive. And then he throws for the wrist and the forearm at about half effort and seems to relax and kind of peel back that pressure a little bit. And then takes a big pause we see there. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
leads his opponent into feeling, I feel safe. I can now attack in for the head, which looks open, but it's clearly a trap. He sees it coming, blocks it with the right hand sword, and the great thing about being lefty against right-handed opponents is there's not really much extending you have to do to actually touch them. So just
Mm-hmm.
straightens his arm out and right into the crease of the knee there.
And Vittorio kind of a little bit of a flaw in his parry out, because his parry, it didn't. He was trying to protect his leg at too low of a point. If he was going for an ankle shot, it absolutely would have blocked, but he wasn't. He was going for a thigh shot, and Vittorio could have done something there, but his options were just so limited from his position. Um, and when you're
Well,
being
it's
pressed
it's
from both
hard to
sides,
get
you
that
need to
kind of
prioritize what
crossberry
keeps you
block as well.
alive. It's true, it's true. And when you're being pressed from both sides, it's even harder. Because I
Yeah,
mean, it's just distracting. I It makes somebody falter, right? I mean, it's very much by design.
exactly. That's a little bit too far. Right? The pressure releases, the attack comes in, and it's hard. You're extending one side of your body outwards, which forces a rotation to your shoulders. So for that parry, you'd almost have to counteract that, so that you have some free range on that left arm. But even
And
then,
you know this
it's
this
too
is
late.
something
You're in
I've just
commitment.
noticed. He's
Hmm.
he's fully committed, and if you look, Vittorio's rear leg there, his left leg is entirely lifted up off the ground.
Yeah.
There's no amount of pivoting he can do. He's entirely locked into his position. All defense in this moment now has to come from that sword, and he's just not in position to do it. You'd need to be able to bring your blade over from a shoulder movement, and currently all he can accomplish is a wrist because of how squared he is to the attack.
Yeah. I'm
I
curious
mean, this
why.
is this is
Why?
some this is a combination of intentional positioning uh, by Magnus and very much like being comfortable with a two-pronged attack, which
Okay.
is, I mean, that's some experience, right?
Yeah, I was curious why that foot came up, and it looks like he wanted to gather in to continue the pressure,
Mm-hmm.
which probably not a good plan. Uh, should have either lunged, which would have helped maybe a little. But at that range, keep the feet on the ground, be ready to. Oh man, I've lost the word for that. It's the leg void where you just pull it back out of range.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just it's just be ready to void
It's not
the
called
jaw on that
sweep,
leg is
is
the
it?
important.
It's a sweep of the
No,
leg? Slip of the leg.
no.
Slip of the leg.
Flip.
That's what I was looking for.
Yes, yes. No, but I mean, if I mean, it's and the leg being taken is kind of like a perfect storm of a couple of mistakes on Vittorio's part being capitalized on by Magnus, who is trying to position him in a way to make those kind of mistakes. He made him comfortable so that way he would start putting pressure. He he did that by having this very aggressive attack that pivoted into being less less problematic to his opponent to bait him into comfort. He executed a very good two pronged attack on the high and low portion of somebody's body, one that is difficult to achieve um, for most fighters because it's a distraction of the brain, and he positioned him in such a way that he was more squared. It was a series of mistakes that were planned, or seemingly at least planned by Don Magnus.
It just goes to show how important the psychological aspect of a fight can be. Because in physiological terms, all Magnus has done is pulled his body back a little bit and then thrown a mostly single tempo parry and little cut. But most of what made all of this work and put all of the pieces in place to capitalize is all a psychological game with the opponent, making them feel comfortable, inviting them to move in, step into the trap, and he gets a leg for it. So it's usually pretty good for most people. Fight a legged opponent.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely preferable to one who can move along. And then you see that little making sure that his opponent's ready. Again, great symbol of being courteous. He's getting a lot of side taps on the wrist, but nothing real.
Right. Yeah. So he's gone for a classic spot as far as a lefty's attack,
Mhm.
and if I rewind for a second, oh, that's too far. Right. So the attacks start coming in for the nice bit of the flank there. And if you notice, he's going to keep throwing them. Vittorio just seems uninterested and unwilling to drop the guard of sword to cover that. It's still there. It's just mostly he's getting out of it for now. But
Mhm.
with enough poking and prodding, right? Fantastic combo.
Mhm.
So the moment that guard has to drop, is what we see. Enough poking and prodding, threatening, threatening. That guard starts to drop so that we can have different plans, but it's out too far.
Mhm.
And he just sweeps it right up, goes for the side cut, notices that his opponent's still trapped, gets that center line shot.
Mhm. I mean, it's it's wonderful, right? You love to see it, and I guess is notably notable to me is that he did all of this with probably pretty low knowledge of his opponent, right? I mean, Magnus is native to the riding of Ravensbridge, which is all the way up in what, Augusta, Maine? Uh,
I'll have to
Not
take your
Augusta,
word
Maine.
for it. I have no idea.
Uh, yeah, Augusta, Maine. Uh, and and Vittorio's down in Suffolk, New York, in barony of Andbergen. So it's a pretty far measure, right? Because that's down from Long Island all the way up to Augusta. So these people probably do not get to play together very much. And he just so it's very stable work. It's not work that comes from having, forced your opponent over the course of months or weeks or years to have a fear for you. It's and psychological
Oh,
impact.
yeah,
It's
it's
probably very momentary, right? And that's a challenge for a lot of people, right?
yeah, there's no preconceived notions here. It's all what is before me? What can I do with it? How do they respond? Here's where they're not responding. How can I capitalize on that?
Um, and I think that that's so interesting because uh, you don't we don't get as much of that in Ethelmark because sure, we have like Blackstone all the way up to Coppertree, but our kingdom is just so much smaller that the odds of those two people meeting in a tournament are very low. Um, Whereas, at this tournament, East Kingdom's huge. People were coming all over to fight it because, I mean, people were coming from Canada, people were coming from Maine, Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, everywhere. Rhode Island. Um,
Hmm.
and so you're gonna get to see that people who just don't get the fight, don't have any preconceived notions about their opponent. You don't see that in Ethelmark tournaments pretty much except for at Pennsic, I don't think. At least not to the degree we're gonna get to see throughout this video.
Is there anything further you'd like to highlight on this one, or would you like to move on to the next pairing?
I mean, I think I could go either way, but I think we should probably, for the sake of time, move on.
Well, this was a longer fight. Not all of them are anywhere near as long as this. So next, we will be looking at uh, someone who is near and dear to the hosts here of Steel Replay. It's our very own
Oh,
foreign transplant, James Gallagher.
and that would be Aziza, right? That's
Yes.
forget her full. Yeah, Scholar Aziza Andrade. So, um,
I expect Aziza is probably a silver rapier. Uh, Don
yes,
James is a golden rapier.
Aziza is a silver rapier, made in late 2023. Uh, James Gallagher is he's a golden rapier. I do not know when he was made.
It was relatively in the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and so is there anything you want to say about this fight before it jumps in?
Well, I mean, I picked this one specifically because I figured you'd have some interesting insights since James is playing with a curve with a saber and dagger.
Yeah, it's one of the big things I like about James's fights is that I feel like I actually know what's going on in them more. But I actually wanted to highlight Aziza real quick because throughout the uh, throughout the event, I saw her fighting very well, especially because she was in a difficult pit. I mean, all of the pits at East Kingdom Crown were difficult. Don't get me wrong. Um, but it was a rough pit. I mean, there were mods, there were knights, there were golden rapiers. I think she was actually the lowest awarded person, or lowest order of precedence for fencing in her pit, and she took I think third in her pit. She did very very well.
That's
So
pretty impressive.
I was thoroughly impressed. She regularly did very well.
Interesting.
Don't quote me on the third thing, but I'm pretty sure.
I will quote you. We're gonna put that out.
Oh no.
Quote Julius Gautieri. Ziza took third. Please quote me on this.
Oh no. Oh, that's not what I said at all. Oh, spaghetti.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me put this back to regular speed.
And James very loose at the beginning of his fight.
So I guess before we go too much further, uh, talk to me a bit about what you think of his setup and his guard positions.
Oh. I will tell you very bluntly, James's positions are varied between looking like they are pulled almost straight out of various manuals to looking like he made them up in a drunken stupor.
Well, yeah, he has a
This
lot of that drunken martial arts style to the way he moves. But
he fights very fast and loose with any period technique.
he's a master at not having any tension in him, which is an impressive thing. It's
Especially for
very very
somebody
hard.
who's it's true, and it's even harder I find when you're fighting something like Saber, which like you have so much emphasis on kinetic energy and the redirection of it. And so you'd think it'd be easier, but in reality, it ends up making you have very seemingly choppy movements that he just manages to avoid. But this particular stance that he's taking right now is like very period. The idea is you have your offhand forward and then your saber in this kind of high guard to cover your head. And your offhand is forward, hopefully to catch whatever they throw at you, at which point the idea is to take a passing step in and cleave with a very clean cut into their collarbone area and just try and spill all of that open. It in the SCA has varying success. If you can get them to drop into a lower guard by making them feel safe, it is very, very effective. If Aziz's guard right now is very good for dealing with that because it's just raise the dagger and you're safe from that attack on your collarbone. But it can be easily redirected into something on your hip or on the side of your chest. It's a form with options, but the idea there is protect the head with the sword, protect the body with the dagger, be very low and presented, and be ready to pass into an attack with the sword.
Okay. What do you think about the general level of threat on his sword hand, since those knuckles are straight out?
You would be surprised at how much you can avoid that. With Saber, because of how much kinetic energy you can really put into a swing, even if you don't have much time to get started, if somebody goes for your knuckles, you're very, very equipped to bring your sword down a very quick motion and just chop through their blade. And then usually you can send it flying towards the ground, at which point you can redouble into an offense. I mean, it's very, very dangerous if you have somebody who has like a very like viper snap quick shot. Um, but against most people, I find it not to be a problem. There's some people in Ethelmark I would never ever take a stance like this against. Ferruccio, Poe, Salvador, not people I would want to take this kind of shot against, right? Because
Uh-huh.
those are the kind of people who, before I can even react, they're going to stab me right in the hand. I would feel comfortable taking this shot against most people who are slower than them.
I'll talk a bit about what I'm seeing from Aziza here, since I'm more straight blade focused than you are.
Hmm.
It's kind of interesting. She's in a very neutral guard. Okay,
Hmm.
it's Terza. It's the daggers there, but it's very upright and it's very loose. It almost gives the impression of I don't know what to make of what's in front of me. It seems inquisitive and not severely guarded, but unsure as well. So I find that interesting. I wonder how much experience they have with facing curves.
I really could not even give an estimate. I mean, they're from. I don't even know what region they're from. I tried to scout out as many people as I can, but I know that they fight in Concordia of the Snows and kind of that area, but
So you saw a lot of their fights. Is was this a typical like setup for them? Do you remember?
usually they would set up a little bit lower, but yes, very very upright, kind of in a very neutral position, but she would change it frequently when presented with something. She seemed comfortable with the idea of changing from her resting guard when
Okay,
necessity prompted.
interesting. So, uh, it sounds a lot like what Fabrice talks about not giving your true guard at the start of a match, especially out of measure, because you just feed your opponent information. There's no reason to tell them exactly what you're planning to do. You start off with something ready to go, very very loose, but you look at what's presented to you and then you form a counter guard and then you proceed from there.
I mean, it's a good tactic. It's one that I used to try and employ more before I developed a more comfortable starting position. It's I've had good experience using doing that. Um, Now, full disclosure, even though I was there and I recorded this, I have no memory of how this fight actually goes.
Yeah, so it looks like they're very comfortable fighting from that body posture because
Hmm.
they start throwing attacks from it,
Hmm.
and James comes in with this nice rush. It does not work
Hmm.
out for him though. Let's slow this down because the boy is fast.
It's true, he's springy, and that's useful when you have limited range, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Comes right in. He's a big fan of these dagger sweeps right across the body.
Hmm. And he tried to get something into Aziz's head, and it just managed to miss. It just went
Well,
into the hood
she got the
instead.
parrying off on it. It's really subtle, but it's there. Yet it starts the engagement with the
Okay,
curve.
let's slow it down to 1/4 real quick. Um,
1/4. I got that.
let's
And yeah, so he starts coming in, and you see he's picked up the end of their blade with
mhm.
curve, transfers over to the dagger, but there's just enough of a wedge from that sail dagger to take it into the drape.
Wow, that's very nice. I mean, that's tight. That's a tight parry to make. Um,
Yeah, and he does not make enough adjustment to deal with it. Right,
mhm.
this is one I watched a couple of times before this to take a good look at, and yeah, I mean, just wedges it out. Now, there's a lot of things he could do from here that don't end up happening. Um,
I
my
mean, my
first thought,
personal favorite would have been to just rotate the wrist out and cut the throat from the other angle. Because I mean, he's in a position there where he can roll his wrist and then bend his elbow and then just extend it again and just get a clean cut across the right side of her throat. It's kind of a
oh,
hard motion to describe.
that's interesting because that is not my first thought.
Oh, really?
My first instinct is to right. So we're throwing in prima, and we're slightly blocked out, but their
Mm-hmm.
arms extended and fairly locked forward.
Mm-hmm.
Got them on the dagger. My first thought would be to just do an arm rotation down to quarta and slash the whole side open because all that flank is completely open and escape diagonally directly towards where the camera is looking at right now. Just roll that over, keep control of that the sword with the dagger, swipe at that side, and get out of dodge.
The problem I see with that is, it's a little bit hard to see, but if I recall, she has upturned keons that I think have him blocked in a way, so he has to go up to be able to move himself
I'm
out of
not
that.
sure. Let's
I am
go back a
fairly
second.
sure. Yep.
So they're upturned, but they're not maybe not as problematic as you might think.
No, I mean they're. He's right in between the keon and the blade, and she's even turned her wrist to lock him.
Maybe that would
So
be
the
a
reason that I say that is because if you rotate your blade, because currently he's in prima, all you would do is you would rotate your wrist to get it into basically I guess a high quarta, right? I mean, you're is the position. So the way that the way that you do that is it turns your blade, your true edge, into the dagger, and then you can slip your elbow up or bend your elbow towards you, so your palm would be facing you if you had an open hand. Then you just bend it 90 degrees so the arm would be crossing your body if you had an open hand. Then you rotate your wrist so your knuckles are facing the sky, and then you just draw that cut. And it's a very, very fast cut that
yeah.
I have used in times
I
like this
understand what
because
you
it.
mean. Um, it's a it's an arm position that actually really matches well with uh doing a an incartata kind of step,
Mhm,
so you get all that nice angulature. But
mhm,
he's coming a little bit too fast, as you see. He's trying to stop himself, and
mhm,
in the process of trying to stop and make something happen, she just boops him right on the head.
mhm. It's amazing because after the fight, I recall very clearly he was saying like, I thought I had her, and then she just like
Oh no,
she
yeah, right
she
all in that
moved
drape.
backwards, and I didn't expect her to
Bonk.
be able to move back that fast. And then she just does a very natural extension while the leg goes back from a fall. That was not
Oh yeah,
planned
a
from her part.
fantastic control all the way down, down on one knee. Not even a really full fall.
And I mean, that was. I think this was the last fight in this pit before they called it, if I recall correctly. Before they
Possibly,
called the rain because it was too bad.
but
It was either this one or this is second to last. Um, but it you got to give props to somebody who can fall with that much control while attacking their opponent and not put themselves or their opponent in any like real danger. You know.
mm-hmm. React that quickly to a rush in without
Mm-hmm.
making that much space for yourself. So, playing in the pocket as you were
Mm-hmm.
is a really really cool fight to catch.
I was very pleased. It was impressive, and again, you see them making sure that everything's okay from the fight because I mean it was just some worry, right?
Mm-hmm. So our next one is actually the one we have up on the screen. We're going to look at Kalik versus James.
Hmm.
Because we absolutely love James here at Steel Replay.
It's true. Big James fans.
You know, you figure you got to give mad props to a man who will dress like a traffic cone.
Hey, true. It's my favorite color.
Yeah, so for this one, he's switched to straight blade and dagger.
Mm-hmm. Classic martial
Yeah,
block and
Marshall
beat
in the
up
way,
wrangler.
classic.
Classic. It's actually written about in the manuals. And
I
again, James having that very rushy style.
Rushy, very bouncy.
Mhm.
He is quick on his feet.
And he keeps a very high energy with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of control going on, especially with the sword work.
Hmm.
Lots of little pot shots, posturing, just trying to get something up on one another. And we're already deep into the rain,
Mm,
so footing is a little rough. So if people aren't plunging and capitalizing on what they could have, there's a reason. I don't know if I went
yeah.
back too far here. I think I did. It's roughly about here that we get into the real meat of what we're looking at.
Hmm.
I'll slow this about
So
down to
I
half
just want
speed.
to say real quick because we actually totally forgot
Hmm.
to introduce his other opponent.
Oh, yeah.
So this is uh Lady Kalik, I think might be how you pronounce that. Or if it's
That's my
Welsh like I
assumption.
suspect it is, it would actually be Kalik, but not 100% sure on that. But as far as I can find, uh, I think she's actually fully unawarded for
Really.
for, for Rapier. Yeah,
That's fascinating. Uh, hmm. Well, from what I saw from the footage we gathered, I feel like that should be rectified for sure.
I agree. But I will not lie; it was actually kind of difficult to find anything under that name. I could really only find stuff about this crown tournament. Um,
It's
but
possible they're incredibly new or recently changed
it
their name.
it's true. And there's another Kalik in the SCA, or not in the SCA, in the East Kingdom. Well, yeah, in the SCA, but in the East Kingdom specifically, who could be maybe. But
It doesn't
I
matter
don't.
that much.
I don't really think so. But interestingly, I just cannot seem to find anybody under the name Kalik awarded in Rapier pretty much at all. So, and they fought pretty consistently, pretty well.
Oh,
Um,
quite solid.
I mean, better than I would expect from somebody who's been entirely unawarded.
Yeah, this fight right here that we're looking at, I mean, we're a couple seconds from the conclusion of it, but it's gone on for almost 2 minutes. Holding off an ogre for 2 full minutes in high stakes tournament, that's not an easy thing to do.
And James is not like he's not a low quality ogre either. It's not like you're doing this to a baby who's barely qualified to be an ogre. You're doing this to somebody full fledged who very much is in the pocket of that position, right? It's not
And not somebody who plays a patient game either.
yeah, it's you're holding against an extremely aggressive, very very capable ogre. For I mean, it's better than I can do a lot of the time.
It's better than I can do a lot of time.
Yeah, and
So
then right, I mean,
one of James's classic pressures in, but he
mhm,
misses the control with the dagger. And
true, but it only ends up getting the arm, so it
yeah,
works.
that was a huge amount of luck.
It's true. I mean, that could have resulted in a double kill right there.
Mm-hmm. Or just his loss. So this is a moment he starts stepping in, and
Mhm. Classic Marshall.
yeah, yeah, of course, Marshall trying to block the view as best as they can. If our
Uh,
Crown Tourney footage is anything, it's a living proof of Marshall's hate cameras. They just hate them, like with a burning
it's
passion.
there, yeah. And the funny thing is, this Marshall actually was the one that got in the way the least in my pit. In fact, I actually had one of the voice heralds somehow get in my way more than this guy did consistently. Don't even ask me how that happens.
So
But you know,
how could we have done this differently? Because the this could have turned out roughly for James, and he's lucky that he caught his opponent flustered enough that he only takes it on the left arm.
mhm. I mean, this could have ended up. I mean, bluntly, with James getting gacked pretty hard.
But gacked.
Because
But like ideally,
um,
the easiest thing for his opponent is just a nice little stop thrust. Uh,
mhm.
I feel like he started a little bit too far away and hasn't done anything about the sword.
Yeah, I mean, so he he just didn't really address. I mean, to a certain extent, any of the threats, because even the dagger isn't really addressed except by opposing offense.
I'm
Like,
curious what his thought process was here. It does look like he's bringing his dagger up to catch their sword. It's hard to tell with the marshal in the way.
mhm.
Um, it wouldn't be my first choice. I very much would have wanted to sweep that sword with mine and then bring the tip back up to place it.
You know what the problem with that might have been though, if he had done that,
Hmm.
it might have provided just enough resistance to allow that to get that dagger in. Because uh, if you watch Kayla, she barely managed to miss that dagger because just she tried and he managed to get just over it in time to get the push cut in there.
Oh, I mean, what I'm talking about is uh, at roughly this point, as I was coming in, I would turn, get crossing, and drop to a hanging guard to lock that out, and then bring the tip back in somewhere.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Like into the opponent's left
Yeah, I
ab.
basically want to clear it off to the side of my body and then make the tip work. Or get a transfer or do something else awful to my opponent.
So a little side note: this is the second left-handed person that we've seen today,
Mm-hmm.
and both in the same pit. So that's kind of interesting, right? Because it was a 10-person pit, and so statistically you'd expect to see one. Two is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is.
At least I thought it
It is
was neat.
a statistical Uh, statistical quirk, I'll say.
Yeah. Um, but it does lead to some interesting stuff, right? Because a lot of what's going on here, like that attack on James's left side, is probably not something that Kalik is used to getting. I mean, used
Mm,
to pressuring the left side of an opponent as a left-handed person. I know that you talk about it a lot.
yeah.
I was wondering if you wanted to speak to that at all.
Well, it's interesting. Uh, it's just one of those things that you have to be wary of. I mean, everything that you are looking for is exactly what your opponent wants too. Uh, so it's important that not only are you aware of what you might want, but how it manifests on you as well and the guards that you're putting up. And there are little hallmarks of experience that we can look at, especially when it comes to lefties, because there are just certain ways that are correct, and you see, you can't see my mouse, but the stream can, that I'm highlighting along Calyx's arm. It's
Right,
very
right.
nicely straight from the shoulder, in line with the
Mm-hmm.
elbow, in line with the guard, and so this is definitely a sign of experience because a lot of people like to kick their wrist inwards, and so the side of their forearm is exposed. And left versus right fights, that's just juicy, juicy target area. It's in normal measure, it's close enough that it's just an extension and snag without even really moving the feet. So this definitely shows a decent level of experience. And then their dagger is set up to go over their left arm, which is a good decision. Uh, Secondaries are generally less useful for lefties because they're on the wrong side. They don't face right into the sword like it is for uh, a quote unquote normal fight. And
Right.
a lot of the target areas you're trying to block with it is all the way cross body. So unless you're rotating your shoulders as well to get more length and positioning out of your arms, it's very difficult to get good blocks all the way across your body.
We got a question in
Yeah.
the Ethelmark Academy of Defense chat. Uh, what was the most fought form at EK Rapier current? In my pit, it was sword and dagger, specifically rapier and dagger. But
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, from the footage I saw quite a bit of case. Obviously, there's a lot of sword and dagger. Um,
Mhm.
the pit that I mainly watched, the two pits actually that I mainly watched, I saw quite a bit of longsword, and the other one that I caught a couple of fights from had several sword and buckler fights.
interesting, interesting.
Like
Yeah, for
I
my
know
pit
for sure
was
Master
almost
Colin went in with buckler.
my pit was almost entirely sword and dagger. Although two people fought case pretty much the whole
Hmm.
way. I don't recall much else.
Just taking a look
Much
at
else
my
means
list
anything.
here. Magnus and Vittorio both had case for the fight that we saw.
Hmm.
James and Aziza and Kalik all have
Both had.
some form of sword and dagger.
Hmm.
Um, Sir Gilbert, one of the knights, fought with a little black buckler. Um, One of the
You know
gentles
what? You were
from
right.
the pit that I watched, that we're going to actually watch one of their fights, has a large round shield, probably about like a 25 incher diameter. Uh, and of course, Firebow did some repping of Cloak, so we're gonna see a
I
nice
was gonna say
variety across what we're still gonna watch.
it's true. It was nice. I feel like in Mark we do not get as much variety as we got in EK Crown. Um,
And
at pretty much any of
of
our times. I
course,
mean,
for the finals, they made a special point of highlighting depth. So we'll talk about it when we get there, but it was a best of seven, rotating non-repeating forms.
which is, I mean, I think that's just great.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this I had to put another lefty fight in here, of course. Lefty
Oh, I mean,
representation
I
wherever I
just
can.
noticed that. I I just noticed that that wasn't even a thrust into James's arm. It actually only ended up being a push cut because the thrust was into his fabric.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
but
that's
I mean, it was so lucky on his part.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
You ready to move on?
Yeah, I think we can move on. Let's see,
All
who are we
right,
covering?
let's take a bit of a detour for a moment. And since somebody asked about different weapons forms, the next one we're going to look at is Phaedra versus Corwin.
Okay.
Now, some background from what I saw. Uh, Corwin is fighting with obviously this large round and a straight blade. Phaedra fought sword and dagger entirely through, and very interestingly, they took several like straight out of a textbook period positions from the start of bouts. Um, I think they're one of the few people I have ever seen in my entire life uh, actually fight from one of Fabrice's one of the guards that he shows in the manual that most people think is kind of ridiculous. It kind of looks like a sumo wrestler holding their weapons up. There were several fights that they did. This is not one of them, unfortunately. I didn't think that any of those fights were really had much discussion to have on them. But
So, uh, similar to the other ones, I want to talk about both fighters for a minute. So, Corin Blackthorn is, as far as I can tell, and uh, another just pretty much unawarded person. In fact, he doesn't even have Lord in his title. I think he actually might not even have an AOA.
oh dear.
Because uh, whereas uh, whereas Phaedra is a silver rapier, I believe. Yes, a silver rapier. Um, so neither one in like the grant level area of experience, right? But certainly certainly a pretty big experience difference.
Hmm.
Heck, anyway.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with both of them. Although I do actually know Phaedra's consort decently well. They're an old acquaintance of mine.
Really? Okay.
Hmm.
That's Leo McCullen.
Uh-huh.
Unfamiliar.
I believe he does not fence anymore, but for most of the time that since I met him, he was a fencer and he used a lot of curve. In fact, curve's uh, generally the same kind of model as what James is using in this footage.
I see. Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
So let's see what we
Well,
got
I mean,
going on here.
we can see if that rubbed off on the person fighting for him.
Oh, and of course, shows how brainless I am. There, Phaedra is fighting with sword and cloak in this one, so I was completely wrong.
You know, that'll happen.
Listen, I sat here and
They
I watched an hour worth of footage repeatedly. I don't remember everything.
It's like I said, it'll happen. Um,
Let me pull back a
so
little bit.
it's just yeah. I was gonna say let's go ahead and pull back to the beginning.
Ready?
Yeah, starting with some aggression. Ooh, interesting.
Yes. I
Yeah.
thought
Okay,
you
pull
might
that back.
find
Slow
this
it down.
one neat. Pull
Slow
it
it down.
back.
You pull it back.
I got
Okay.
it.
Right.
And you slowed it down, yes?
Yep.
Right. Now the lists inside were small,
Yeah, they were unfortunately
but there's
sized.
not much I could do about that.
Again, that's kind of a bouncy shot. See why she didn't take it. Some aggression.
It is
Aggression
a
when she.
tight flurry of blows. I mean
Yeah, I mean
the fight
it's
in itself is less than 10 seconds.
yeah. I mean that'll happen sometimes, right? Especially in these small lists.
So I'll point out her starting position is a really classic historical style.
Mm-hmm.
Get that cloak out there, make a wedge, get the sword kind of behind it, ready to strike from far back. And to his credit, I mean he uses the reach he has and the size of the list, just immediately fires, and if she did nothing, he could have hit her in the mask.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a real danger.
Now, is this a decision I would have made? Probably not. Um, I would have definitely hit the arm. Disable that cloak immediately. When you've got this much range
I mean
and
when it's
half your
free,
blade is
yeah,
past their arm, just poke that arm, and you won't have to worry about the secondary at all.
yeah. I mean, and it would have been free. It would have been free to take that instead of trying to go for the headshot.
But I
There's
have to
not
say
much.
that his follow-up idea, while it didn't matter, I think was quite brilliant. So if you notice, he throws that thrust, and then immediately pulls up and swoops down, expecting an attack. And had it come in, he would have wiped her blade right into her cloak, and then things would have
Got
got
a
pretty
straight
gross from
center line
there.
shot.
I mean, fantastic idea, and the execution on it was actually really, really nice looking.
Mm-hmm. Not something you get to see very often from. And I want to talk about this. A lot of people with shield are very afraid at the idea of like covering their eyes with the shield or blocking their from their
Mm-hmm.
head because they're afraid of, they're afraid of the attack that's going to come in and hit their lower portions of their body while they're trying to block. That doesn't matter if you're dead. And he
Uh-huh.
knows that. He's like, well, the options are block it or die. So he chooses block it. And a lot of people choose die. So props.
Well, not only that, but the motion he makes, uh, I mean, the motion he makes for that block shows quite a bit of experience with that shield, because not only does he raise the shield, okay, to
Mm-hmm.
block it, he drops his center of gravity too.
Mm-hmm.
So shield comes up, body comes down. It's definitely not going to be in the way of the sword.
Mm-hmm. And now
And
he's very primed for making an attack on the lower portion of her body now,
hmm
if he wants to from there. These are the kind of things that I do not expect to see off of somebody who's entirely unawarded.
right, I mean this positioning right here, where he's completed the block, he probably has a decent bit of sight line off of that side of the shield towards the sword
Mm-hmm.
side, and I mean his opponent is a bit floundering because they stepped in, got completely shut out, and they're like, what do I do now? There's a giant shield in my way. He has a straight line to go right for her chest,
Mm-hmm.
which I suppose he tries. Unfortunately, she's shifting her weight and just completely uh, voids it.
Which is impressive. And he drops the shield into a defensive position for her most likely attack.
Uh huh.
I mean, it's from his part, it is from like starting from very beginning, just talking about his attack. He makes a very like strong attack. He makes a defensive motion with the sword. He raises the shield, dropping his body when pressed. Drops the shield to the next liable place of attack while trying to make an attack happen. That's coordination right there, and it's forethought.
Absolutely. You swipe and drop the shield, and a lot of times with shields, when you get this, where an opponent's blade is on the flat of your shield and you're kind of past the tip, usually this means you've won. There's,
Hmm.
if you know what you're doing, there's not much they're doing about this unless they really fool you somehow.
Yeah, I mean, something has to go kind of wrong if you know what you're doing. Especially, I mean, the tip is past the back edge of the shield. Flat is on. Angulature is good. On the they're you're up high. They with your blade. It's you're in a good spot here.
And
Oh, and I just noticed Phaedra's back foot had left the ground to make that attack, and then comes back to retreat into sink the counterbalance to pull herself back.
now, to be fair to them, um, they have that beautiful exchange of just things not working out, but all very smooth. And at the
Mm-hmm.
level they're both at, they both retreat like, uh, what's going on now? Does a sort of
Yeah, because not.
reset and look at what's going on, and what Corwin does after he realizes what the positioning and the situation is after that. This is what made me write it down because back to guard, and he realizes that they've switched to the other side of his shield.
Mhm.
So boom,
And just right on over in. It's very beautiful, and it makes me shocked that like I couldn't find anything. Corwin has no information on East Kingdom Wiki, uh, but is been fencing for who knows how long. Um, in the SCA for who knows how long. Like I have
yeah.
nothing, and we see that. That's pretty good. That's
I
pretty good,
just
right?
the ideas on display here, where he realizes the position where the sword's sitting, brings a shield up, pushes into it. This also disguises the path of his sword travel
Mm-hmm.
because now a lot of that started kind of behind the shield sight line, and yeah, just a step to the side,
And
right to the chest.
he continues following through with his movement, which shows a pretty good ability he was prepared for if that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He was prepared to continue motion and just like
Boom.
I mean that's a lot of especially new people they kind of they drop once they feel like they've won, and he didn't do that, which is impressive.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Um,
his footing is not the best in the process of
I
this.
mean, but
The
for somebody
sidestep,
of their level.
fantastic. One of the things I harp on so often is, you know, your toes have to lead where you're going. And,
Hmm.
makes the little shuffle, but he's still going to be going forward with everything else. So those toes stay straight pointed at the opponent.
Hmm.
Now, it would have been a little cleaner if instead of bringing the other foot straight in line to shuffle, if it went a little bit around and he shifted his hips into a refused position, that would have made it really, really, really nice. But, there's areas to work on.
And nobody's perfect, but for the level you're looking at, I don't think you can expect much better, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic at most levels.
Hmm. I mean, I would be pleased if I fought like this.
Uh-huh.
uh,
Right.
and again, you see like very courteous behavior after the fights. It's beautiful. I love to see it.
Yeah, so I mean all the way through this tournament, after every fight, the opponents were talking, making sure everyone was happy with what happened. There was a huge focus on courtesy clean and
I want to point something out. I'm sorry. This just makes me laugh. I want to point out the MOLs for this pit. Look at how bored the one in black looks, and how invested and amazed the one in green looks. He's like, oh, like aware of what has just transpired between these two, and the other one's like, eh.
Yeah, that happens.
I don't know why. I just find that very entertaining.
So, next one I want to look at
I just want to say
is
one last thing.
yeah.
I want to give some credit to Phaedra on this one, because at that level, I mean, at the level that we're both at, because we're both at, you know, that AOA awarded level. Um, you it's hard sometimes when, you know, all of your ideas falter to not just kind of shatter. Like, but she kept on pressing with further intense, and even up until the last, she tried to make an attack. She kept on trying to press. You don't see that a lot in people who are in that level when their ideas start faltering.
hmm A lot of people like to completely disengage and reset the fight completely.
Um,
So, next one I'd like to look at is this is Adelina versus Jacob of Dunmore, which two
right,
people that we're
and I mean,
both quite familiar with.
yeah. So, uh,
And I need to put the
I
speed back
mean,
on.
the Lady Adelina is a silver rapier.
hmm
Jacob Dunmore is a master of defense. I mean, Jacob Dunmore, he's another Ethelmark patriot.
So,
Um,
uh,
and
you have not seen this because this was from my pit. What do you think's
mhm.
going to happen here? How do you think this is going to go?
um, I'm Leon. I mean, the way I'm expecting it to go. Oh, I wish I knew more about both of their fights. I know them both pretty well as I know Adelina pretty well as a person ish, and I know Dunmore okay as a person ish. But I don't know either of them very much as fighters. If that makes any sense.
hmm
Um, I mean, I like to say, and I think I said it at East Kingdom, that Dunmore tends to fight like a lizard on a rock. Um, Kind of very evaluative, waiting until the bug crawls close enough that he can just shove it in his mouth. Um, in this case, the bug is kind of like just a shot that he can make happen. He's patient. He's willing to wait and willing to just capitalize the moment an opponent makes a mistake. So, I mean, if I was going to make a prediction, I would predict that I'd say that Adeline is probably going to try and put some pressure on, falter in some way, probably on her sword side, and fall to just a very good, uh, probably thrusting Secunda to the upper shoulder area. Is my prediction. I really could be wrong,
Interesting.
but I'm predicting that kind of exchange where she's aggressive for a while and he capitalizes on a little mistake.
Yeah, I have to say, Dunmore overall is an incredibly solid style fighter. There's not a lot of frills in his game. It's all very, very, very clean, tight defense, strong attacks, and really no nonsense. And you can see that on display. He's got his tight guard, and he's just poke, poke, poke. Find something that
Mhm.
works.
But he's not really committing too hard into anything. Again, he's lizard on the rock. He's making some passive movements until he can guarantee something happens. I think he's poking a lot just to keep pressure on, so that way she doesn't feel safe to attack him.
And like the reason I wanted to include this one is so the disparity in the levels I have going on, and yet this fight, if you didn't know, that wasn't far enough back. If you didn't know what level they were, I don't feel like you would have that much idea. I mean, there's second intentions, there's third intentions, there's fourth intentions. I mean, that was an intense match, and even though he gets the center line, she still manages to wing his shoulder.
And that's impressive. I mean, he's no joke. I've fought him before. He's hard to really get anything on.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at the precise control from both of them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, neither one of them's flailing around here.
And really, it just comes down to a dagger parry that wasn't quite fast enough, not quite there. But I just thought that one was quite interesting. So now let's get into we're gonna get into some more meaty things. Next, we will be looking at, if I can find it on the thing here. Not this. A couple seconds after this. So this one is Don Xavier versus Master Firebow.
Mm-hmm.
And from the footage that I saw, uh, I mean, I'm quite familiar with Firebow personally. Not I've never met or seen Xavier before, but he seems to like these high, very very extended forward guards, very Spanish in nature, and Firebow's the quintessential, Italian Fabrice uh, kind of fight.
And we're seeing Master Defense and Firebow versus a Don and Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what to make of that.
There's a lot
uh,
going on in a short amount of time.
yeah,
So we'll bring the speed down. Man, I really want to click the screen to make it play, and it does not work that way. So we've got Sword and Cloak versus Sword and Dagger. And I mean, we start with a nice assault right off the bat.
mm-hmm.
This is too far back.
I mean, very presented from very very presented,
And
and
incredibly profiled. And they have this
mm-hmm.
deep crossing. And as soon as Xavier feels that they can get some leverage. Already comes in, crossbody block with the dagger, and is getting deep in that pocket. Bring the sword over, and it looks like they're going for some kind of cut that isn't there because Firebow brings the cloak in and starts working his sword across to the other way.
Hmm.
And so all that momentum continues through. Firebow throws a thrust, it's parried to the side, throws another thrust. There's a bit of a disengagement, a little bit of working the opponent's blade to try and get back in position. And then once the blade's high, realizes they can come back in. So the dagger comes forward to try to catch it, but Firebow's too wily. And so they have to stop their attack to focus on defense to try and block again. And I believe Firebow takes a leg in that. But I mean, they're at touching range.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there's actually some incidental contact of
Well,
the
you know.
guard right there.
And yeah, it ends with Firebow stepping away, getting his blade free, and delivering what looks like a thrust to the neck. I mean, it's possible that that draw cut was also a bit good as well, but
I mean,
thrust
it all
right to the
depends. It
neck,
looks like it might have just been an arm, but it's hard to
maybe.
tell at that angle.
But I mean, what a high level match.
I mean, that's impressive. That's oh, I mean, on some level, you have to admit when something's beyond you, right?
Yeah, yeah. The levels of offense coming in, realizing defense is needed, switching gears, then bringing the offense back in, but never relenting until they absolutely had to. And then even then, we only see Xavier step back enough to re-engage. I mean, this is exactly the kind of stuff that you want to see.
Uh-huh. I mean, wow, wow. I mean, that's huge right there.
Much wow.
It's
Very huge.
you don't get to see fights like this a lot, right? And so you I kind of have to absorb as much of this as I can, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I am thoroughly impressed by the let's use the word forethought behind all of the movements in this whole fight, right? I mean, nothing or very little, I should say. Very little was wasted.
Yes.
Everything was kind of done with purpose in mind. Purpose might not have gotten executed perfectly because of the opponent changing what they're doing to try and prevent you from executing your plans, but everything had purpose in mind.
The level of snap decision making, threat assessment, positioning, understanding where the openings are, how am I trapped, how do I get out, where does my defense need to be, where does my cloak need to be, how do I bring my dagger in. I mean, this is just fantastic stuff for both of them.
Uh, I see our comments. People are excited about Cloak. I mean, people. Giovanni.
Yeah,
Giovanni's
yeah.
excited about Cloak. Um, I also see a very honest and respectful disagreement about the concern of the balance in the fights with Corwin at the end, which I think is fair.
No,
Um,
it's fair, but it's
one
also hard to say. Um,
I
because he
I feel
stutter steps a
comfortable in
bit, but the fight was clearly over. It's hard to know how
yeah,
much of that
the
was.
loss of balance came after the fight had been declared over. And so trying to kind of suddenly stop planned movement can result in a very off balance look. Even when, if you had been able to continue, you would have been more on balance.
So I mean, I think it's a 50-50. Could he have been severely off balance? Probably. Would it have played out that way? Not necessarily. But
Who knows?
it's a fair observation to make.
I agree. I agree absolutely.
You ready for another high class fight?
Oh, let's see it. Yeah, I'm so curious what you're gonna bring up. What you're calling a high class fight because it could be really great.
So
Ooh,
this is we're now into the second round, and this is Master Ogadai versus Master Firebow. Now I know virtually nothing about Ogadai other than little whispers over the years. Um, all I know is his symbol's a monkey, and watching him fight, I felt like he embodied that quite a bit.
I'm, I'm so curious as to what you mean by that because I saw some of his fights in person, and I'm really wondering what quality you're calling out as monkey esque.
Well, uh, let me try to put this into words. I feel like he has a really nice equal and unfavored control of both of his arms. He's fighting Case, and
Mm-hmm.
the way he fights, I don't know as if I could tell other than the way he sets up which preference he has, and his fight style is less. I mean, he's like a direct comparison to Firebow, who's very like right out of an illustration, whereas Ogadai seems a bit more street brawly.
Fighting what is so nicely called a CA thug.
Well, I wouldn't even say that. I mean, reminiscent of that, but it's if that was very refined, in a refined way.
Uh,
Oh, this still slowed down.
I I, I kind of see what you mean. I guess I kind of see what you mean. I'm not sure I'd describe that as monkey like. I guess, but
I mean,
I do agree with you. You see kind of like a I mean some rapier fights look very much like art. And this is not to disparage those that don't end up looking like that. And some end up looking like a fight.
well,
Because
even
there's
some of the
not a
things
lot
that
of
we call that we might call like thuggy or thug like is a matter of art to them. It's just a matter of brutality, like the art of brutality, as opposed to finesse.
right, but when I think of street brawly, and yeah, I can agree with that. There's a level of I don't know if I could really call it like art, but more like just ruthless efficiency. Like you were talking about Dunmore in the forget the flourish, forget the plumage, forget just refine it to be no puffs, no frills. That's that's the kind of thing when I think of street brawly is just do what you're doing in a way that risks nothing on forget about looking like a painting and
Like the one who's not walking
focus
away
on
bleeding.
winning. Yeah.
And
And I mean, I understand that. I definitely understand that. And it can be very effective. So no
yeah,
disrespect to people who fight like that.
no, no, of course not. And Giovanni will be excited because this is another high class cloak bout.
Side note, I'm also jealous of that Marshall staff.
Yeah, the rapier.
Yeah. Uh oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I figured you'd appreciate
Yeah.
that one.
It's
Sometimes a fight
so
doesn't have to be long, and it doesn't have to be drawn out to be just a nice little pack of
It's like a
quality.
microcosm of high level fighting. This fight,
Uh-huh.
because like Firebow right here is really kind of exemplifying what I like to call the beauty of simplicity. It's just, you know, specifically in fencing, because it's just retreat, retreat, kind of poke retreat,
Mm-hmm.
stab
And
in.
and the moment
Very.
an opponent is too committed to an action they can't really do anything about
Mhm,
is when it's the time to strike.
mhm,
As soon as Ogadai goes for that foot and it's clearly not gonna be there. Boop. Right on the nose.
mhm,
And one of the things I really wanted to highlight in this one is Firebow's backup plan.
mhm.
I mean, he follows through just gently. That if that didn't work, he was going to sweep up, probably aim for the side of the flank, and that cloak's coming up to cover his body. He's got a full little defensive fortress right there.
Oh yeah, there's not really much that Zogadai can do from that other than back up again, which is obviously not productive for him. Um, I mean, it doesn't really matter. He's already dead.
Mm-hmm.
And
Bloop.
the graceful little fall at the end is I think what turns like that kind of comportment and display and kind of like fun in the bout is is something that can turn just a normal bout into like just a really fun little venture, especially when you're later into a tournament.
Oh yeah, and the pressure's on. But yeah, this fight was just excellent. Positioning of feet and decisions made, follow up ideas, and the way Firebow hinges at the hip, contorts his body, gets everything nice and tight behind all that defense.
I mean, this is the kind of fight that I expect to be ended with like a bow and billow of the cape.
Uh huh.
I mean, that's
I wish I could fight this well.
oh yeah. I wish you could fight this well too.
Yeah. I don't
Mostly, I
blame you.
wish I could fight this well. I'd prefer if I could fight this well
Well,
and you could fight this well.
you find a way to look that
That'd
pretty
be
with a
pretty
curve.
cool. Oh no, my sword's broken. It's bent.
So, our next one is unfortunately our last look at some beautiful Firebow fighting.
What a shame. Because I could always look at my fire.
We are into the uh, semifinals with this next one, and I can't read my writing.
Oh, are we going to be talking about Donovan versus Fireball?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, we will. So, Donovan versus Fireball. Uh,
Oh, I mean
if
Donovan.
Fabrice could fight
Donovan.
himself, this is what this match would be.
So Donovan, I feel like doesn't need a kind of introduction right now, considering the fact that he is current Highness of the
Prince,
East Kingdom.
Prince of the
Yeah, this
East.
is his current Highness of the East. Uh, Master Defense, very good. I mean, of all tournaments to call a struggle to win, this is one.
Absolutely. I mean,
But
these two definitely fall in the category of best fencers that I know of. Like, period. Absolutely, period.
yeah, I mean, I think that's an accurate statement for sure. I yeah. I don't think I can say anything else. Just yeah. Um,
And it's lovely, this setup we have right here is just, you know, it's nearly mirrors of each other, the way, you know, the very, very classic Fabrician guards. Are you ready
and when you have
for?
two people who are familiar with each other's with their own
Oh
style and
yeah.
fighting their own style, it always leads to really awesome fights
Yeah, something
because
worth
in
pointing out,
theory they know
as
what
we
they're doing.
mentioned earlier about opponents facing each other who have no idea anything about each other, these two for sure know way too much about each other.
You know, when you both have that kind of deep knowledge and you're both really good, it makes fights weird.
Uh-huh.
It makes them weird to watch, really. I mean, so again, both of them with that little prodding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Donovan doing a lot of shooting. Can I get through those rings? Can I get the cloak out of the way? Uh, especially just not getting through that guard to the body. So you've got to start picking it apart. Shooting for the toes, and Fireball has these fantastic little sweeps of just tight defense, blocks it out, brings the tip back online, and we're right back into it. Now, the conclusion of this first bit is nothing. Um, it's not really a great thrust to Donovan, and Donovan only has in the cloak, so they decide just to refight it, which I unfortunately forgot to cut out a lot of this, so we can skip ahead.
Okay.
Though I suppose before we move on too far, I mean, let's look at some of what goes on in here.
Right, right.
Pull back about this far,
Okay.
and we'll slow it down. Right there, I mean, those fantastic little sweeps, low guard sweeps that don't take too much. They don't take too much commitment.
And His Majesty of the East watching very, very diligently.
I found that exchange interesting. Um,
Really?
it's
Okay.
not much of anything, but no, this isn't back far enough. Here, hold on. No, that's not back far enough either. Right, there's, block and then a cut towards the arm, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a short little cut too.
Mm-hmm.
The level of precision and control on the blade work is really, really interesting.
Now,
So, what do you think of that failed pass as a whole?
well, I mean, it was really. How do I put this? It was. I mean, it's a high level bout, right?
Mm-hmm.
On some, I feel like we have to acknowledge it was very very. Um, you're looking at two people who are intimately familiar with each other and their fighting and each other's fighting style because they're so very similar. Um, I mean, what did you call it if Fabrice fought himself?
Yeah, exactly.
uh, so there's just a lot of these weird little quirks of the fight that exist, and I think really show how familiar they are with each other. Like there's a lot of these little movements in like right after attacks or right before attacks of just trying to figure out what the other one's going to do and having a pretty good idea of it on both their parts. Both of you have a pretty good idea of what the other one's going to do. It just makes any defense really hard to penetrate through. And both of them are putting up such a solid defense to begin with that it's just. I mean, frankly, both of them pretty much look nearly impenetrable throughout this fight
Hmm.
from my side. And like, I would not know where to begin.
Yeah, with a fight like this, you gotta try to get a limb or get them to severely outposition themselves. Now, the thing is, uh, it's worth noting for the audience the way the second round went. Uh, it's basically if for this fight, Firebow is in the losers bracket basically if a double the limb. So he
Mhm.
has to beat Donovan twice to advance to the finals, whereas Donovan only has to win once.
Which is that's a high order for Firebow, right? I mean,
Well, it's gonna make changes to your decisions of how much you're willing to risk as well.
mhm. I mean, in anything, you have to kind of put the whole tournament into context and what the rules surrounding that are before
Hmm.
you can talk about any kind of risk decision making. So
So they decide
it's interesting.
basically what we've seen so far is null and void nothing, and they reset and just more fantastic precision.
Mhm. Oh, so yeah, let's rewind and slow that one down.
All right, so that's right about there.
Mhm.
So bring it to here, and we'll slow this. I'm gonna slow this down fully because I mean it's such small little motions. Pick
Right,
up
so
with the
you
dagger, shoot for the foot,
retreat the foot.
step back, right back into guard, advance
Mhm.
further,
I pick it up again.
blue line thrust, and the dagger's ready to pick up whatever happens.
Caught in the cloak. Dagger's there. Out of the cloak. Double for an attack
And yeah, unfortunately, it just works
on
out to
the
be a
other side.
double.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean that'll happen, right?
You know,
I mean, it reminds me of the old adage, right? Chess fought perfectly will always end in a draw. Chess played perfectly will always end in a draw.
Firebow gets a poke to the face as Donovan comes over and strikes ahead.
Hmm.
Can't get the cloak up fast enough.
Hmm. So I mean, wow, it's just really prolonged here.
Right, they're gonna talk about it a bit.
Hmm. I mean, they know each other, they're friends, they're very much talking it out, which is good. I like to see it. Marshall,
Yeah, this
we
is
should
this
have
is the
a
footage we all came for. Is a picture of the marshal's back.
we're all one. A little shrug from Donovan.
I I have to point out just because you pointed it out earlier. If I scoot back like just a couple seconds. You can see
Mhm.
our friend in the green from the MOL table is standing behind the purple table and is like, "Ooh, what's gonna happen?"
It's the same one. That's amazing. You can tell who among the MLLs isn't really invested.
See, this
Uh,
this is what you need to
and
win one of these bouts. You take the secondary off, and this is even better because now your opponent has to fight offhanded.
it's
Now, there's nothing I can do
shut.
about the marshal in the way. However, I actually
I
think
mean, it'll.
we can figure out exactly what happened with what we can see.
I think so.
So I'm going to give you a still frame, and I want you to try to figure out
Mhm.
what do you think happened. Oh, I missed it.
Oh, I mean, I see what you're talking about. I think I know pretty much exactly what happened. I think Donovan shot over Firebow's sword and stabbed him pretty much right in the heart in Prima. It looked like, although I would have to double check that with the hand. I can't. Oh.
Here we go. And cut it down to quarter speed.
Mhm.
Pressure, pressure. Only
Yep.
fighting one blade,
Pressure,
so
pressure.
it makes it a lot easier. And
And yep, you know,
yeah,
goes up on top of the blade, gains the crossing, goes into Prima, drops his wrist down, stabs him in the heart. That's what I'm pretty sure is happening from.
pretty much. You know,
Um,
it's a fantastic little set of you toy with an opponent, you play with them, you get them in a they have to move. Now suddenly there's an opening right over the guard that's exploitable, especially on people that's offhanded. This is exactly how you win a lefty versus righty bout,
mhm.
and perfectly executed. I have to assume because all I can see is Rhiannon's back.
Yeah, I mean that'll happen. That'll happen. We should get a little decal we can put up, or a little thing we can put up on the stream that's like partial moment.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll happen enough that it's worthwhile. Just a little graphic to put up. Well, I think it's about time that we move to the finals, don't you?
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, there's so many fights we could have covered, but we got to end on the finals, right? I mean, that's how the tournament ended.
Well, as far as you know.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. As far as I know, the tournament did end
You
on the
know, they could have had a
finals.
fist fight in the parking lot afterwards. You don't know.
I'd like to think. But I guess you're right. Liking to think ain't the same as knowing.
And there's me clicking that screen again. Right, so the finals. We have Master Donovan, Shinnok, versus Master Robert Tights. And by convention, the first bout is Greatsword. So, what were your thoughts going
So,
in and watching this?
so I mean, my first thoughts were as somebody who I don't think before that day I had ever seen Donovan fight before. And I had seen Bobby Tights fight quite a bit. I mean, I'd seen a decent amount of his fighting. I felt confident in Donovan, having seen him that day. Um, I know I hadn't gotten to see Bobby Tights fight pretty much at all that day. So it was interesting. I had a much better view into how Donovan was fighting that day, but I probably had a better view of how Bobby Tights fights overall.
Mm-hmm. Who did you think was going to come out
Um,
on top in a longsword bout? Because I'm going to be real, I don't think I've ever
oh,
seen these two fight longsword before this.
I've never seen either of them fight longsword, and so I wasn't 100% sure. But I thought that Donovan's very kind of controlled kind of like very he's just man, there's no better word to describe it than controlled nature. He just he really pulls respect in a fight. And I
Hmm.
thought that that is the kind of those very steady, firm movements are the kind of thing that I see out of the better longsword fighters, as opposed to Bobby's a lot more jumpy and excitable all over the place. And so I was not I was predicting Donovan's favor.
Interesting.
What were you thinking? I'd love
So
to ask me that.
when they called longsword, I had no idea what to expect. But as we kind of got here, uh, I found it interesting just the way they both approached guard and the body language. It showed a lot of confidence. So I immediately felt they both had ideas of what they wanted to do, which is
Which,
more that can be said for a lot of people. I mean, I've had to face I've had to play longsword uh, in the finals of a high stress tourney, and it's panic time if you don't have a clear plan.
but these are two masters of defense. They're both really good. You would hope on some level that they have a at least a semblance of a plan for all of the forms.
Hmm.
Now, hopes versus reality can differ, but that would be my hope.
And yeah, they both had the same plan, which was to strike each other in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
There's there's
Which,
there's not much to say
good.
other than that. A really good plan. It worked so well. It worked for both of them.
They say a good plan is so good that it'll work twice over. I think I think it's true.
Do they say
It's
that?
a good plan. Worked. I've heard it. Yeah,
No.
like a good plan will work every time. And it's a good plan. It worked every time. And
Oops.
okay, pull that back.
I apologize. I lost track of my mouse for a moment. Right. Let's pull back to right about here.
Yeah, that looks right.
So I mean, this is a simple bout, but I do find there is some things that are worth talking about. This extension that Bobby
mhm.
Tights does, and and the redouble into it. I mean, I'm pretty sure, and I wish I hadn't moved now. Um, no, that didn't want to move back.
You're
All right,
pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure. No, not there. Hold on. Let me get the frame again. I missed it, but that assault in, I swear I've seen that from a longsword manual.
It's funny. I think you're right. This reminds me of the idea that we've discussed about doing a longsword episode and bringing in somebody who actually knows longsword.
Yeah. God, what manual was that? It was I want to say it was the one that we wanted to do that scroll for Niccolo out of. Maybe it was Lichtenauer?
um, I don't know if you're a longsword person who reads manuals, say it in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this later. But I think you are right. I think you are right,
And
and
but unfortunately for Bobby, he comes up short and Donovan gets this cut to his head,
mhm.
which I'm not sure how I feel about honestly. I mean, it's a short little push cut.
You know, it might have been a little short, but
Well, I
what
mean, all that
matters is
matters
that they
is
were both
is
satisfied
that
with it.
Tights thought that he was bested. I can totally
Uh huh.
respect that.
And you know what? I think he made the right call.
Yeah.
I mean, I think without being able to see it slowed down and everything, it's kind of a.
Oh yeah, I mean, you would
It
have just felt
definitely looked really good.
just felt that on your mask as you were coming in.
Yeah, and so I think he made the right call.
And
Um,
so, first bout to Donovan, and now we have single sword. Now, for the audience, fair warning: every single one of these matchups, the first one's a double kill.
a little caught in the blade, and Vivat to them both for the or Vivat to Bobby for the pulling back to allow him to check his tip. Right.
Yeah, safety first.
I think that safety always deserves to be applauded, and yeah, I mean, again, a good idea will work every time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
Listen,
interesting
you
because
can
I would
thrust your
not.
opponent's chest if they're too busy thrusting your chest.
It's funny because I would not have expected if you were going to give me two fighters and tell me I should expect and tell me that they were going to double kill a bunch, and you told me it was these two, I would be a little surprised because they fight so differently, and the fact that they're double killing in the same way as each other is interesting.
I got the impression from their uh, round two fight that that they double kill a lot when they match up. Because they double killed in
But
that fight too, and they both exclaimed, "So it begins." So I wonder if it's just a really, really, really common thing for them as a matchup.
you know what? There's some matchups that are like that for pretty much everyone. There's some people who that just happens with. I think
Yeah, who do you double kill a lot with?
I double kill a ton with Fredericus. I
Oh
do.
yeah,
Um, it's true. It happens a shameful amount for both of us. And it's for us. I guess it probably should have made more sense to me because for us, it's because we have two entirely different ideas and are unaware of the thought that the other one could be having, the idea that they're having.
listen, there's no shame in rushing in, saying to yourself, "God loves me more."
It's a very period tactic. Um, in fact, it was so period that Silver bitched about it. That's how
Do
you
you think
know.
it's a familial thing because he's your cadet brother, and you fight a lot?
I mean, he is one of the people I fight the most, so that is probably part.
Because I'll say the person I double kill with absolutely the most, and not just double kill but train wreck each other in the same way is Elena.
You know who else I double kill with a lot? Who it's much more shameful for him that we double kill a lot than it is for me. Me and Niccolo double kill a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, never in tournaments. In tournaments, he beats the crud out of me, but at practice we double kill a ton. So it's interesting that way.
Hmm. So, before we continue with the actual fighting, how much of a effect do you think it has on everything here? The difference in styles of sword they're wielding, because Bobby's hand is very exposed, whereas Donovan's got literal steel in the way.
Oh, I mean everything. I think that it changes everything about a fight. But I hold to this very firmly, and I will die on this hill. What you have protecting your hand and also the amount of mass back there really does change basically everything in a fight. Because when you have a lot of mass back there, it, it's almost lightsaber esque, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just very very easy to move at the wrist. When when you have kind of little lesser mass back there, therefore lesser hand protection, you have to worry more about protecting your hand. But you have more driving power into your into your cuts because of the center of mass. So it really does kind of change everything about how a fight's going to go. Do you find that experience, or do you feel differently?
No, I think it's a fair observation. Uh, because the more weight you have to throw around changes so much of what you can do. But I think in general, everything about the weapon that you're wielding changes not only what you can do and what you have to do, but the way that you want to utilize uh, your opponent's decisions. If I'm fighting with a sword like Bobby Tights, I'm expecting shots for that hand. And so it's going to be built into the ethos of everything that I do. When I see those kind of motions, it's going to be more of a trap than a benefit to my opponent. Because, yeah, of course it is literally open, but nothing's open if it's pre planned for. You know,
Yeah.
whereas that's not even an option for Donovan. He has to rely on a completely different bag of tricks.
It's it is one of the benefits of having an open guard, right? Is you have a hole in your defense, and where you have a known hole, you have a potential for a trap. It's a honeypot tactic basically,
Yep.
and it's
Well,
one that even really great fencers fall for.
let's see if it works out for Bobby Tights.
True. Let's see. Let's see. Who knows?
Oh, look at that. I mean, just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Let's go back about this far. And we'll put it about half speed. So a lot of things happen in this flurry that kind of ends the match. First of all, I have no idea if Bobby Tights lost his right hand or if he made the switch on purpose. But he switches to left hand and really fast too.
Uh-huh.
But can't quite get the tip in. And Donovan gets his hand on it, and now it's levered between his sword and his hand, and just slides that tip into Bobby's chest.
And it's kind of same old song and dance, right? He gained control, and once he felt like he had control fully gained, he just shot, and his shot don't miss.
Mm-hmm. So Donovan's up 2 out of a best of 7. He only needs 4 to win.
But it's anyone's game at this point. Coming back from 2 for 4, it can happen.
Right, and this is now probably their most comfortable and familiar styles, which Sword and Dagger is like the bread and butter of SCA Rapier.
Mhm.
Do you think they're gonna double
Bobby
kill this
starting
time?
out very bouncy and aggressive, exactly what I thought. Yeah, well, of course they're gonna kill this. Double kill this time. But of course they are. It wouldn't be finals of East Kingdom Crown Rapier Crown if they didn't double kill. Again, this is much more of what I expected from every match. Bobby starting out extremely bouncy and aggressive, is going for it, and Donovan kind of just more controlled, taking his time, getting ready, firing, slow, but
The neat little twitches. I
mhm.
wanted to highlight something. I gotta slide back just a little bit. This is a good freeze frame. So what do you think of their relative positions? Like in particular, what do you think of how Bobby Tights sits his back foot on the ground and the structure of his legs, his footwork?
I think that looking at that hurts my knee. Uh, But I will say I understand because that kind of tension, what he's doing is when you put that kind of tension, you're prepared to spring forward with your back foot. It's, I mean, his toes are pointed to the side. His knee is in line with the toes, right? But still slightly forward. And that calf is ready and tensioned to be just kind of pushed off of like a runner's start.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's the
all
kind of
pad on the
thing
foot,
that you would
on the ground,
you would
not the
ex-
foot.
it's the kind of thing that you would expect to see of someone who's, going to be that really bouncy, really quick lightning shot forward style. And I mean, it's what he does. It's Does it look like the kinds of things that would be talked about in like very neat and controlled fencing? No, not really, but biomechanically it makes sense what he's doing. It works. He has that sort of strain there, and the reason that it works so well is because if he pushes off with his front foot, he can push backwards and be in a very stable position very quickly. And in fact, he doesn't even need to really use his front foot much to enter into a more stable position if he wants to stop moving. All he has to do is drop his heel and push his toes forward a little bit more. That's all he has to do. It's one clean movement from uh, to go from that very arched ready, like a very high in potential energy, ready to be turned in kinetic, to just stable and very calm. I don't see Bobby entering stable and calm very often, but he's ready to if he needs to, which is important for somebody who might get counterpressed.
So normally,
Um,
I would
we have
absolutely hate something like this. You know, like one of the things I harp on so often is not playing on the pad of the foot, keeping the knee turned to be, relatively 90 degrees from the other one. But here it he can get away with this and it's fine because he's not planning on doing deep lunge or even a short lunge. It's a lot of really quick advancing steps. And so since there's nowhere near the level of commitment on that back foot for a counter push, this is fine. He'll just have to make adjustments if he really wants to lengthen out because especially with how slick that floor was, I would not recommend just trying to
oh
push
no,
off of the
you'll
pad for a
you'll go
long.
spilling you'll go spilling like bullets. It'll all be over. But
Hmm.
and he's positioned in such a way that it won't take very much to get him into a stable position. One of
Well,
our people in the chat's commenting that some of Bobby's footwork looks unstable and uncomfortable, and how at one point the side of his foot is full on touching the ground. That's the portion that's making contact. And I know exactly what you're
yeah,
talking about. There's
a,
some
a
points where
lot of people
his
do
the
that
ball
roll
of
of the
his
ankle.
ankle is touching the floor, and that's not ideal. That's the
No,
kind of thing
it's not
that
good. You don't want to do
that's the
that
kind of
if you
thing
can
that
help
gets
it.
you to really, I mean, maybe break your ankle for one. Um, it's one of those things that's not good because it doesn't work in the fencing field. It's not good because you're going to break your ankle. Um,
Well, and it just
and
goes to show that like you can still have flaws in your fight even at the top level, you know.
I mean, it's
And
true. You
it's probably a problem of with the amount of pressure and stress and just everything that goes into this caliber of fight. Sometimes bad stuff comes out when you're trying to make like desperately make anything work. But this is what we practice for.
Mhm. I mean, this is why it's big on like practice how you fight, right?
Hmm.
So if you're
But
going to be in high stress tournaments, you need to try and fight as high stress as you can to make sure that you don't start losing your caliber. But and I mean, in terms of high stress, this is probably the highest stress tournament either of them will ever be in.
oh yeah. And the
I
nice
mean,
thing is mechanically when he thrusts with his sword, since he's so squared up, when that arm comes forward, the shoulder has to follow, which rotates the body. It's going to put his knee back into where it needs to be and put that foot more flat on the ground.
Uh-huh. Like I said, it's something that fixes itself most of the time. And I mean, you can even there's the foot side of the foot on the ground.
Uh huh. I mean, I'm not a fan, but man knows what he's doing.
It's true,
His knees do make me
and
hurt though.
oh, I mean, I'm too fat for that. I there's some things you need to be physically fit to do, and being able to put that much stress on your knee, yeah, that's one. You need to have good knees for that.
He's so light on his toes though, and yeah, just extends and tries to play, gets hit right in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really neat,
And
neat shot right there. Because their measure is so close. I mean, it's just an extension. That's not
mhm.
something you see very often in right on right fights.
Yeah, and I mean,
Oh,
this
I
is
need I
this
need to get
is
off this
part of
freeze frame.
the
It looks like Bobby's knee is
no no no
broken.
no 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 stay on this freeze frame because it's actually a great example of what I want to talk about real quick. So the difference was that length of extension, and that's exactly what we were talking about earlier, right? Where the problem is, he can be really bouncy and those really quick, but he's going to lose out on extension because of that back leg being all squamata. It's man, it really does look kind of wonked up in this position.
Yeah, it
uh
needs to be less bend at the knee and more a bend at the hip socket.
mhm. And because of that, he lost out on an extension, and this bout would have been another classic double kill if he just had that extension in, but he doesn't. And like we said, I mean, this kind of more on the toes stance where you're able to bounce forward is good for other things. And it's good for the things that Bobby likes to do, which is why I really don't have any problem with him doing it, aside from the occasional ending up on the side of his foot. But
Yeah,
it's just unfortunate, right? And I think Donovan knows this because Donovan knows Bobby quite well, and so Donovan played to his strengths of having a better extension. Very simple. Very simple, very good, very controlled, very demure, very mindful.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So Donovan's up 3.
hmm.
He just needs to take one
And again,
more to take the championship.
you never know. Bobby Tights could come back. He could roll it for 4 in a row. I've seen crazier things happen. Probably can't think of any right now, but I have seen some pretty crazy stuff. Pretty crazy stuff. And both of them bringing stick and fighting it very similar to how they fought Dagger.
Well, they both use the well, I mean, I guess Bobby's is just a straight, but Donovan's using an actual hooked cane. Um, and but they both decided to use the just a straight portion of it. And this one does not end in a double kill.
Mm-hmm.
Which we'll go back.
But I mean, so Donovan takes the arm at the early in the bout.
So I want to
Great.
talk about Donovan chooses to not use the hook of the cane. What do you think about that?
Well, so I fought a decent bit of Kane. Not the most, but a decent bit. And there are some real benefits to not using the hook. The biggest one is now that hook protects your hand. Now it acts as kind of like a reverse knuckle bow coming up from the bottom. Man, it's useful. You lose out on some grappling potential, sure. But to be honest, I found that as I was getting better with the cane, I got to a point where I started barely losing any grappling potential from switching out to being butt of the cane forward as opposed to hook. I imagine that when you're at that point of skill and you are that confident in your parries and are that confident in your gaining control and your and everything, you probably don't need that hook for security as much as you want it for defense. And I think that that's a very reasonable call.
I wonder if it's just completely more simple than that, in that using just the straight portion makes it function like a really long dagger, and so it's just familiar territory.
Maybe.
I have to say,
I
personally,
would have to know how
I
much
hate
Donovan
not
fights
using
Kane.
the crook of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Should slow this down. Slow it down.
mhm.
And we'll roll that beautiful bean footage.
I think actually where you just paused is kind of a good example of how Bobby is capable of switching to being able to hold weight on that back foot prolonged.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's comfy in it, so.
So, Bobby goes
And
in for a
wow,
thrust, and that's a really nice structure.
and this is what I'm talking about. Bobby is capable of switching that foot to be down. He's capable of building that of keeping that structure. That's why I don't dislike what he does because he does it for a reason. And when he doesn't want to do what he wanted to do before, he switches his feet to make the new thing he wants to do better. He knows that he can't keep the same feet for everything he does. Good. And
Bloop. Bobby falls over dead.
uh-huh. And you know, it goes to show the good structure was great and all, but Donovan again, he held same kind of good structure he has the whole time, and again, on the offense, he's ready, right?
So, who bet on Donovan to win? I asked people to place their bets, and if you bet on Donovan, you get one Omega Buck.
But Cyrus, what can you use Omega Bucks for?
That's a good question that we'll answer in episode 2 of Steel Replay.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Right. Donovan was definitely safe money, considering the fact that we did call him His Highness Donovan.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was good money. For those of you who bet Bobby Tights, it's brave. Going against the grain, never change.
But
So
here concludes our analysis of like some spectacular fencing.
Giovanni, it doesn't matter if you watched it live.
You still could have
You,
bet for Bobby Tights. You never know.
it's true. You never know. You could have been betting that we doctored the footage. Anything's possible.
So you want to wrap it up here?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is as good a time as any to wrap it up. Well,
So this is the end of the first episode of a Steel Replay. For those in the chat, if you enjoyed this, let us know, and let us know what you might want to see in the future. And uh, if you have any ideas of how we can make this better, please let us know. There are so many improvements that we can make, uh, and really, it's all for the viewers. Otherwise, I mean, Julius and I can chat anytime.
oh, I mean, it's true, and we don't have enough egos to do this for ourselves. We don't like the sound of our own voices enough. So,
Oh yeah. You have any closing
so
thoughts, Julius?
well, I think that it's going to be hard to beat our first episode. I think if we can find a more historic thing to cover than the first ever Rapier crown, be on good track. But
Well, you never know. I mean, we could sometime in the future cover Queen's Rapier Championship. Julia Scott Thierry wins.
oh, maybe one day. Yeah, that'll happen one day. But I mean, there's so much great footage out there. Uh, really, I'd love to know what the viewers want, because we can really kind of do anything. It's we can talk about we can talk about a specific form. We can talk about a specific master.
Mm-hmm.
We
I
could
figure for
talk
sure
about
our next episode we will have a guest on.
oh yeah.
If
I mean,
you want, if
episode
you have
one is
footage
going
of
to just be us.
yourself that you want us to analyze, we're totally open to that. And then we can bring you on. And you can talk about your own fights.
I think that within the next week we will announce what the plan is for next episode and when it's going to be.
Yep,
I think that's it. We're getting some suggestions already in the chat. Best in the known world at Penzik footage. That'd be great.
it's possible.
I happen
If
to know
Julius
the
will
guy
let me
who
not
runs.
fight in it, that would be
I
pretty
happen to
primo.
know the guy who runs Best of the Known World, so I'm sure that he'd be okay with us getting footage.
Yeah.
I've heard he's kind of a dingus, but I
Well,
think
you
I
know,
can work something out with him. Uh,
there is a
Miss.
huge log on this channel of back footage also that we could talk about. I mean, we could do an episode solely on QRCs of the last decade.
Oh, easily, yeah. Um,
Melee episode, yeah,
we've
that's a great
gotten
idea.
an episode, missed footage episode. I'm curious what you mean by missed footage.
I
Um,
think they mean the fights that we didn't cover from East Crown.
yeah, fair enough. Um, I mean, there's a lot of great options, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I think the answer should be put in the comments of the video, not in the chat, in the comments of the video, what you would like to see. And what do you want to say? We'll do the one with the most likes for our second one?
Maybe.
As long as it's reasonable and we feel like it?
I mean, everything that gets put forward will be put under consideration. So even if it doesn't happen next time, it could end up in the
It'll
rotation for
probably
something to
happen.
do eventually.
I mean, best of the known world footage, that's happened.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
I'll
mean,
get some people to
we'll
record.
do. We might have to do like 2 Penzik episodes.
I know what the format of Best in the Known World is going to be, and I can find people who are going to record specifically for that. So I might literally pair up. I might see if I can get the marshals to wear GoPros or something. Then the marshals can't block the footage, but we'll have to see on that one.
I
That
have
being
to say
said, thank you all.
we make fun of the marshals a lot because they really just unintentionally have great camera radar. But I want to say that I do appreciate that the job they do, and
Oh yeah, I mean,
I mean their
we
sightline is
we
more
couldn't do.
important than mine.
Oh yeah, I mean we joke, but we couldn't play this game without them. And I have my undying appreciation to people who sit out tournaments or sit out melees to marshal.
Absolutely. But we'll bring this to a close. This has been a lot of fun, and we'll do this
And
again.
I hope to see you. I hope to see you all next time, and hopefully more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye.